We fucked it up. Should we redo it?
I don't know. This one, maybe we should just fly.
Yeah,
Let it ride.
What's up? We fucked up the intro totally.
Dude, we're all over that fucking thing.
Yeah, so I guess we should introduce ourselves just in case this is the first episode somebody listens to.
Oh, shit. Yeah,
I'm John.
Hey, I'm Jake.
There's Jake right there.
Welcome to the Jake and John show. This is serious business over here.
Greatest podcast on earth.
Yeah.
And so anyway, let's get down to business. On Friday, we made it to the Marilyn Manson and Slipknot concert, and it was fucking awesome. It was the best fucking thing I've ever seen live in my life. And I've also, because of that concert, become a massive Marilyn Manson fan. Since we saw the concert, I've seen 2 Marilyn Manson documentaries. I am actually buying his 1990 book. I think it's a biography today on the Amazon Kindle. And I've been jamming his music, dude. I really like that guy. Did you have a great time there?
Yeah, man. Fantastic time. And yeah, that was a good show, man. I think I said last time, I didn't really know a ton about Marilyn Manson's music. It turned out I knew a few more songs than I thought I did. And, of course, he played all his hits. So, yeah, man, it was an awesome show.
It was. And something that was really fucking cool that I didn't even think about it. There was actually kids there. I saw one of them sitting on his dad's shoulders, and he had earplugs in, which is the responsible thing to do, of course. But the kid looked like he was having the fucking time of his life. He was, I don't know, maybe like somewhere between 8 and 10. He was a little guy, but he was rocking the fuck out, dude. Devil horns in the air, just jamming, man. I really liked it.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, that show, man, there was tons of energy. Just the whole crowd was going crazy. I mean, it would get so loud, just the screaming and everything. Sometimes, when your ear starts to make that kind of weird hiss, it's like when things get too loud, Yeah, I had that several times just from the crowd. Had nothing to do with the music at all. I mean, people were jamming, just having a great time.
Yeah, it was the shit, dude. The next day, when I fucking got up, my throat was killing me, dude. So I guess I was having some beers as usual, but I didn't realize that I was fucking screaming and singing so much because it's so loud that even if you're screaming yourself, you can't hear a fucking word you're saying. I was just so into it. I was having so much fun. Man, whenever Marilyn Manson first came out, I was excited because I've obviously never seen him in concert, was never really a fan, and we talked about it on the last podcast, but I was just like, dude, who is this guy? Like, what's he about, And he came out, and I thought he was a fucking destroyer. Like, he was just amazing. His performance was the shit. I think there was some criticism. He was like, spitting or blowing snot rockets into into the people in that little pit down there.
Oh yeah, the snot rockets and HD on that big ass TV I was like, damn, but yeah.
Yeah, I memean, I don't know. Maybe the people like it. They got some Manson's DNA on them, some of his fucking nose loads, but it's not something I would have enjoyed. But it was fucking cool, man. And then when Slipknot came out and they had that stage presentation, they've been doing it so long that everything to me, I've never seen them live, but I've seen live performances on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, these guys are amazing. Everything is just perfect. They never fuck up. Everything looks great. And it was the same thing when we were there. It was just amazing, dude. And Corey Taylor, like, his energy when he's down there, dude, and he's got the suit on and his mask and shit and his fucking vocals, his performance live, it was perfect. The whole next day, my energy and the feeling I had inside was that I was still there. And that I need to see them as many times as I fucking can.
Oh yeah, dude, Corey was killing it, and he also is in a neck brace right now. He's still recovering from neck surgery, and even with that, and being in like wearing a mask and being in a long sleeve jumpsuit, that dude is still more energetic than even young dudes today. And not only energetic, but his performances are awesome. The dude can sing live, he can scream live. The whole show is so good. I mean, obviously they've gone through those songs a few times, and just the whole performance, but the whole band is on point the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, you don't ever get a sense of, oh yeah, that kind of fucked up or something. Like, the whole thing is just powerful and perfect the whole time.
Did you see any interesting characters as, making your way to the bathroom or going to get a drink or anything?
Yeah, it's probably less than I was expecting. For the most part, it seemed like a much more normal, maybe even a little bit older crowd to some extent than I was expecting. I mean, the place was packed. I'd say by the night, I mean, it looked like a sold-out crowd. The entire place was entirely full. But, yeah, I didn't see too much weirdness, I mean, other than the kind of usual black shirt crowd.
Yeah, I was hoping for more because we discussed the look of the big tubey black pants and excessive nose rings and stuff like that. I saw a few people like that, but I was hoping that I would see hundreds of them, but that wasn't necessarily the case. But I was drinking a lot of beer, so I had to piss a bunch of times, and when I'd go into the bathroom, there was always somebody trying to have a conversation with me. I was at one of those latrines, it's like fucking 10 feet long, and you got drunk bozos next to you trying to talk to you and engage in conversation. Dude, this show is fucking badass, bro. And I'm like, yeah, man, rock on. And
Something funny is one of those times that bozo was me. You were in there pissing at the trough thing, and I walked up, and I was like, hey, man, what do you think of the show? And you just kind of nodded because I knew you thought I was somebody else, and you just turned around and walked off.
Oh, no shit. Oh, dude, I swear to God, I did not even know that happened.
Yeah.
No clue. That's
It made
funny.
me laugh. It's funny because I know exactly what you're talking about. I've witnessed it.
Yeah, because every time I went in there, somebody was saying that to me, and fucking this guy was like, yeah, man, cool, rock on, and I'm pissing. But he kept repeating himself. He said it like 4 times, like looking for me to acknowledge him or start a conversation. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I gotta fucking get out of here, man.
Yeah. People like to talk at that. Something about the piss trough, man. People start to get real social at that thing. And it kind of breaks the normal like urinal rules of like skipping a space or whatever. You'll have some dude like a foot away from you pissing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, if I'm touching my penis, look, I'm not homophobic at all. But if I'm actively touching my penis and I'm peeing into the urinal, I don't want to talk.
Yeah, it's an intimate moment.
I don't want to have a conversation. You're touching your dick, and I'm touching my dick. So if we're talking, it's sort of like foreplay or something. I don't know. Maybe you're getting off to it or something. I don't want to do it, man.
Yeah, I get it. I understand totally. So overall, I mean, I think this is one of the first times you've been to just a big show in general. I mean, I know you and I have been to some club shows here and there before, but like this is the first time you've been to like a really big show like that, right?
Yeah, well, the last time that you and I went there to that venue was Kid Rock and Leonard Skinner. That was a big show.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was like 2008. That was a great show. We were on the lawn that time, way in the back, but it was still fucking awesome, man.
Do you find it? This is just something that I think over time. Now that as I go, because I still, I've been to a lot of heavy shows. Is sometimes it's almost hard for me to go back to a calmer type show. Sometimes, just because, I mean, it's not to say that the music isn't good or the performance isn't good or anything like that, but it's not the same energy. You know what I mean? It's because when you go to these heavy shows, you can expect a certain level of energy, and then you kind of get spoiled by that. When you go to other ones, it's just it's not as exciting as it once was.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched any of it, the 2016 MTV Music Awards. I think that's what it was. It was like 3 or 4 days ago, Sunday maybe.
I haven't seen any of it.
But unfortunately, I watched the whole thing. And, I mean, they had the people on there, they're talented. They can sing and do this. It's just not my type of music.
Like who is it? Like Justin Bieber and stuff like that?
Like that kind of shit, yeah. Like Beyonce, Rihanna, that type of thing. Just pop culture shit. But I was looking at the crowd the whole time. And I'm just thinking to myself, these people have no fucking clue. Like if they were at Slipknot and Marilyn Manson and you compare that energy to them pretending to rock out to Rihanna or whatever bullshit song Beyonce was singing, it's not even the same planet.
No.
There's no comparison whatsoever. It's so weak compared to a fucking heavy show with talented bands.
I don't know. Maybe it is the same kind of experience for those if they really are into the music. Because, I really like heavy music. There's something about, and it's, I've known this since I was little, or is that, something about heavy down-tuned guitars, the, fast double kick on the drums. Something about that, appeals to me at my core. You know what I mean? Where the poppy sounds don't necessarily. Where I'm sure it does for some people. Obviously, it does. They have tons of fans, but that just heavy chugging guitars and stuff that's just always appealed to me. So when I go to that, I think I'm just looking for that energy. It's kind of like almost a fix, right? Where the other shows, I just don't imagine you can get that. But I think it's it's a mind thing for sure. So if you're into it, I'm sure it's kind of the same experience, maybe.
Well, I think a huge difference is the aggression inside. That doesn't mean that you're in a bad mood. But there's aggression tied to metal. Even if you're just chilling, that thing is still going off inside of you. Whereas if I'm listening to one of Rihanna's shitty songs, I don't feel any aggression other than I feel irritation. I don't feel that aggression though, but it's a positive kind. It's like
you feel like you're alive, man.
Like your testosterone is boosted momentarily, and you're just you're like working through shit in your head. and you feel great and it's good. But I didn't get anything like that from the music awards. No.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and take a quick peek at that. Of course, a lot of those groups, this almost seems silly to say, like I literally know none of their music. Like I could probably honestly say that I don't know a Rihanna song at all. Like I probably couldn't pick her out of a crowd, So a lot of times when I watch those, that's almost strange because these people are so popular and so famous, and I really have never seen them because I'm in such a space where I listen to music outside of the radio now and I've done it for so long that I don't even really know what's going on in pop culture sometimes.
Yeah, I hardly know at all. But there was a couple of rappers on there. One of them was a white dude. I can't remember his name, but I guess he's really popular now. But
well, I'll tell you this, man. I would go see Eminem in a second.
No question.
Dude, in a heartbeat. I love Eminem's music, just all his albums. I have most of them, and it's like somewhat like especially when I got into running. That's like my running partner, man. I listen to Eminem and just jam out but he's almost. I would equate him. He's like almost the metal of the rap world because it's that same aggression. He has aggression that other rappers don't have. It's that he's angsty and just everything he says is like with meaning and power in it, you know what I mean? And I think it kind of strikes on the same chords of metal, I think.
Yeah, when I hear Eminem, I don't feel like he's trying to look cool or to sound cool or setting himself up to win a rap battle with some guy on the other coast.
What's weird is, he's clearly rap, but I don't think, I think of him as a rapper, obviously, but like when I listen to that, it's different than listening to other rap. I feel like I'm listening to something different. It's definitely rap, but it's something, it's on a complete different field than most rap.
Well, I think his lyrical content is at the highest level you can reach in rap. Obviously, that's a very subjective thing to say, and many rap fans would disagree, but many probably wouldn't because he really is one of the best ever. But the live performances of rap, okay, so Eminem, I've seen some of his live performances, and he's actually really good. But then I see some of my other artists. I love rap music. Yeah. And there's a lot of shit that I listen to, but I watch it live, and I'm like, Jesus, this sucks.
You know what sucks about it? Sometimes it'll be pretty good, but they've always got that, like, hype guy with them, that's like, yeah, and shit over the whole time. And that guy actually fucks it up, He's just not a good rapper. He's the one that kind of, like, he'll come in on certain verses, and he'll, like, say them at the same time. And it's okay right there because it kind of doubles it up, adds a little more power to the verse. But then the rest of the time, he's just being a hype guy, and he kind of fucks up the performance for me.
It fucks it up for me for sure, but it makes me wonder. The crowds must love it. If you're an exclusively a hip hop and rap fan, then maybe they like that. Maybe that gets them hype. But I don't like that shit. Like when you listen to a mixtape and it's got some of your favorite artists on there, and it's always got this is DJ Fuckface. Oh, and they're doing all that shit, and like during the middle of the song, it's like you need to shut the fuck up.
Well, it seems like, and this is more from like a musical technical perspective, what I noticed they seem to be there for is when a rapper, when he has kind of a long verse, sometimes he runs out of breath, right? And it seems like a lot of times that guy's purpose is to kind of pick up there and make the verse complete without it just stopping short like that. And I think they should probably stop there, and rather than just talking over the whole thing. I'm sure that's a cultural thing I know nothing about, but yeah, to me, for a live performance, it just fucks it up.
Yes, I do not enjoy that shit at all. But I want to, before we move on to another topic, I want to talk a little bit more about Marilyn Manson. So I told you already, I watched the 2 documentaries, and I'm going to get his book today. But I was looking at his Wikipedia page. And he's an interesting guy, in my opinion, because I didn't know shit about him. But so he grew up in a relatively normal household, I guess, but he went to a Christian school of some kind that was supposed to be a good school, like where people make great grades and it can help you with your future, that type of thing. But he had an internal conflict as he got older to where, if I do this or this, I'm going to go to hell. And that happens to a lot of people. And he just snapped and he was like, fuck this shit. Fuck these people. Fuck this bullshit. And it went off into these other things. But the interesting thing about that is his parents weren't oppressive people at all. They just put him in there, from the way I understand it, because they're like, that's a good school. Fuck it. Our kid will be good and make good grades and it'll advance his future, right? But when he got out of that and he's like, fuck this shit, man. And he started getting to his own thing, into the more theater type of thing, more heavy metal, changing his look, his appearance and all that, is his parents were behind him, from what I understand, the whole time. Somebody was asking his dad about, this is after Marilyn Manson became famous. What do you think about your son and his appearance and the way that he behaves and all this? And I'm more than paraphrasing here, but basically what he said is like, fuck you, that's my son. I love him and I'm proud of him. And I really liked that, man. And then in one of the documentaries I saw, he was like calling home and he was talking to his mom. He's okay, Mom, I love you. I'll call you Saturday or something like that. And I thought that was interesting because I guess I built a narrative or a story in my own head where I just assumed that he had oppressive parents, because you can see that sometimes when somebody just goes completely off the fucking rails.
Yeah, I think he's more of just a performance artist. He does things because he likes to see the reactions. I think what he does is, I think it's all a performance, right? It's just a way to express himself. I don't get the idea that he's just nuts or anything like that. And yeah, I think he seems to be like a pretty smart guy, and he has found a way to have a lot of fun with it. And if you see the show, you can tell the dude's having a good time the whole time. He's got pretty good jams, good band, and it's really well put together. I didn't see a lot of his old stuff. Well, I guess it was a little more taboo when he first kind of hit the scene, but now, I mean, maybe I'm just desensitized to it, but yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a good show, good performance. Dude obviously cares about what he's doing, I dug it.
He's, but if you remember back to, I'm pretty sure it was 1999 when the Columbine shooting took place. Remember, that was a huge deal?
Yeah.
And he was directly tied to it. Obviously, he wasn't.
Trench coat thing,
yeah, the trench coat mafia. I think that's what they were called. But they were trying to blame him. The media was trying to blame him for influencing those kids to go out there and just do that crazy shit. And he had nothing to do with it. These people make their own choices. But that was part of one of the documentaries, and I thought that was interesting to deal with that kind of pressure and that type of stress. And he handled it really well. And he was also on the Bill O'Reilly show. Bill O'Reilly is a cocksucker.
Dude, I hate that guy.
I do too. I can't stand him. He's a total cunt. But he was grilling him, just talking shit, and Manson handled it perfectly. But it's funny too, because if I remember right, he's wearing this fucking what's that YMCA man? Why the Village People?
Yeah,
like kind of like a gay cop costume. Like that's what it looked like to me, But he like handled it so well, and he articulated so well, and you could just tell he was right. He was undeniably right. He didn't do anything wrong. Oh, but one more thing is also, whenever, I think he's been married twice now, I think both times he's gotten married, there's women or girls who have committed suicide because they are like, well, now I'll never have a chance to marry my true love. Just random people. And so for him to be able to go day to day and deal with that stress, I mean, it's not his fault, obviously, but just knowing that these crazy people have somehow tied him to it and killed themselves, or you know what I mean, to be able to deal with that stress, it makes me wonder what it does to him psychologically, but also how that influences his music.
Yeah, well, I think everything is kind of an important ingredient into making artists what they are. And sometimes, unfortunately, a lot of the times it's bad things that it's almost like people that have the most chaotic lives often end up being the best artists, because I guess they're the ones with the most inhibition. They're willing to go out and do things, I think, sometimes that other people won't. And that's where you kind of get the genius of artistry.
I dig people like that now. I didn't used to, but when somebody, and I can just tell they don't fucking care. If you're willing to walk outside and you're a grown man with makeup on and like a weird looking coat and fucking shiny boots and all this shit, you just don't fucking care. I might want to be your friend. I'm not sure, but I might want to investigate and talk to you and see what's going on. Because if you don't give a fuck, but you're still making it through life, you're still feeding yourself, you're obeying the laws and shit, like, I want to know what's going on. I need you to tell me the secret, man.
Well, I think most people, probably the most interesting people on earth, are the ones that do things in extremes. Because that's the people who, like, you don't casually get to be a great guitarist. You don't casually get to be a great artist. These people work, I mean, yeah, you may have an aptitude for it, but these are people that are deeply involved in their craft, right? And that's why they're doing what they're doing. This isn't like a side hobby. This is their lifestyle. And I think that's what makes all the interesting things in the world, is these people that are just totally involved with whatever it is they're doing. They've made a life out of it. And they're the ones that bring us the greatest of almost everything imaginable, right? I mean, that's your greatest scientists are the ones that live it. The greatest artists are the ones that live it. Greatest musicians, and yeah, and I think he's definitely just one of those guys, man. He's living it full time, and that's what you get.
I love it when people are obsessed with one thing and they just go for it all the time and continuously take it to the next level, because there's a good chance that early on in life somebody told them to give it up, or they struggled a lot and they weren't able to feed themselves with whatever it was that they were working on, and they just said fuck you and they kept doing it. That takes balls, man, and I fucking love that. I don't know if it's like a certain genetic coding, like a gene, and maybe it's a form of addiction. Certainly that has to be in there somewhere, like an addiction for something you love, to be so passionate about it that even if your life starts to go downhill, you just don't give up on it. I really like that, man. It's inspiring.
Well, I know when I was a kid, and I started playing guitar and stuff, I used to really, really love playing guitar. Like there was a long stretch of my younger years where I thought that's what I was going to do for a living. And it was something I wanted to do, 8-10 hours a day, is just sit there and play guitar and play guitar and play guitar. And I guess that kind of transferred in my older life kind of into computers, which, and that kind of started young too. But I don't think I'll ever be even have a chance to ever be one of the kind of genius artist type people that does that all the time. But I understand it though, because I have a desire to focus on something and take it as far as I possibly can in life. I think you have a lot of that too, but I don't know. I guess I'm drawn to people like that as well, because I can see it in other people. I can see, man, this person is really dedicated to what they're doing. Because even if it's something that I know nothing about, I'm not necessarily interested in, it's always awesome to hear from somebody who knows everything about what they're doing. You know what I mean? Because you can learn, that's how you learn all kinds of stuff from really, really quick.
If we look back in time a little bit, whenever you still played guitar at the time, so I would say it was late teens, but I remember you had started to get more into computers, and I think you were on your second computer job by then, and we were on a road trip together, and I was listening to music, just bullshit music, and I look over, and you got this big ass fucking book, like encyclopedia size, and it's some kind of computer networking or engineering, and you're so fucking immersed in it, just like completely lost in it and fucking enjoying it and learning. And I was like, Jesus Christ, how the fuck does he read that shit? But now I get it. It's because you loved it and you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's all about finding what you have a passion for. I mean, I feel I was fortunate enough to find what I'm passionate about fairly early. But I think anybody will do that if they find the thing that they truly want to do or want to learn about. You'll naturally be drawn to it and want to know more about it.
Yeah, I think for me early in that stage, I was still in the bodybuilding stage or era.
Yeah, okay, well, there's a great example, because see, that was definitely not my interest at the time, but man, you were watching documentaries, you were reading about techniques, perfecting your form and all. It was the same thing. It was just a different interest.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that I still have some type of interest in basic physical fitness and all that, but there's something weird about bodybuilding. When I was younger, I maybe it was insecurities or something like that, but I just I wanted to be like the biggest strong dude that nobody would talk shit to, That's what I had in my head. But now, as I'm older, and like bodybuilding videos on YouTube are super fucking popular right now. Just there's like, if you have a good channel, you can get hundreds of millions of views. But when I'm watching these, because some of them are entertaining and funny, so I watch them sometimes, but there's a whole culture now of like work hard, get on the grind, fucking lift all day, just lift and eat and sleep, and that's it. And I'm thinking, if that's your whole life, man, what kind of life is that? What are you doing, and where are you going? And I see it now, and I think it looks silly, like people wearing tight shirts and V-necks, showing off their fucking chest muscles and shit. I don't know, man. There's something just not kosher about it.
Well, I think that's the great challenge, right? Is if you want to do something and have a life outside of whatever your hobby is learning how to separate that from everything else and make time for other things, and I guess, just know how to, it's basically time management, is knowing how to kind of step away from it a little bit and take care of other things in your life, where, you get the impression sometimes that someone's so, I've seen that myself with the bodybuilding, is they're so involved with that you can't live, right? Because, I mean, you're not going to go have a slice of pizza with that dude or something like that. He can't do it because he's so concerned about every aspect of his nutrition and, yeah, I think it sucks all the fun out of everything else.
At my, well, it was a couple of jobs ago that I had. This was a long time ago, but I used to work with this guy, and he was a great friend of mine, and he was really, really into the bodybuilding scene. And, he looked good. He had put in a lot of work over the years, but something that I thought was really strange about his behavior, and I just didn't see it in him, but this was the first time that I really noticed it, was that when he saw somebody who obviously never exercised at all, and they messed up on the job or something like that, the first thing he would point out is like how weak that person was, and like they're a pussy and they don't take care of themselves. And he always somehow associated that with poor performance that had nothing to do with physical fitness. And it was clear that in his mind, if you don't work out, then you're worthless. You're a lazy person. Like, you have no value. And I thought that was strange. If you get to that level, it's not healthy.
I've seen that before. I've heard it before with people that are deeply involved with like CrossFit, or people that are, and I'm going to say vegans. And I say this lightly because I've eaten a vegan diet before, but there's a big difference between a vegan diet and a vegan. You know what I'm saying? Like, but you kind of get that high and mightiness going where they believe that what they're doing, I guess it distorts their view of people. Is clearly if they're not eating the way you are, they're not lifting the way you are, then they're a fucking idiot, right? And it's going to impact every other aspect of their life. And that's a weird way of thinking. But yeah, I've seen that lots of times.
Yeah, that's what those YouTube videos, there's surely hundreds of successful channels, and now they attack each other because they're talking about different techniques and different ways to do shit. And it just seems like, I don't know, like a waste of life, man. Like, yes, be fit and be passionate about what you're doing, but when you get to that level and you're judging people's character because they don't work out the way you do and you're insulting, just like, it's stupid, man. I just want to add one more thing on the bodybuilding topic. As I was reading this article about the benefits of drinking breast milk
shit,
to get like pure protein and shit, and then another one about drinking semen not only does it have protein in it, but I guess some kind of other nutrients maybe can potentially.
Are we talking about male bodybuilders here?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, carry on.
Yeah. So I guess semen not only has protein in it, like 5 grams or something maybe, and some other type of nutrients, and it's supposed to be like one of the purest forms, And it's like talking about fucking like putting it in your ass with a turkey baster so that it can bypass the liver, so that it's pure protein. Your liver doesn't destroy or break anything. Something like that.
Dude, if you want to be gay, dude, it's cool, man. Yeah. It's cool. Just fucking go for it, man. You don't have to. Might be the weirdest justification for that I've ever heard. Ever.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm not going to judge anybody's sexual activity as long as it's not like, shit with kids or something like that, or rapey. But you don't need to put semen in your ass with a turkey baster. Just
in fact, I would go as far as to argue that there's never a scenario where that's a great idea. There's like you have to stop and think for a minute. If you've come to that conclusion about anything, if there's ever been you've been thinking about anything and the conclusion you came to was you need to put a turkey baster in your ass for any reason whatsoever, you need to rethink about that. I mean, it's time to slow down. Maybe sleep on it, because something is going critically wrong in your logic.
It is. That reminds me. I still remember this when I was in 8th grade. We were in health class, I think, and the teacher didn't show up yet. And we were talking about like sex organs or some shit. I don't know. And this guy was sitting in front of this girl. The girl was one of those kind of punk rocky chicks, and she had started having sex before most people, that type of thing. And this guy was like, yeah, there's 5,000 calories in every tablespoon of semen. And she was like, shut up. She was like, you're lying. And then the conversation got a little deeper, and it turns out she's been, taking shots in the mouth for a while now. And she got super paranoid that she was going to get fucking fat. And it was a funny conversation, especially at that age, because I knew about sex and shit back then, but I don't know. It was just funny to hear that shit.
People are fucking crazy, dude. I don't even know what to say about that. That whole thing is just insanity. If you're getting down to that level, I mean, I'm sure there's something else you could do, anything else you could do to get the performance you're looking for without going that route. I mean, I'm just not sure I can't see it.
Yeah, I don't know. That whole culture is strange, and I live with a guy. He's one of my great friends for a while, and he was super into bodybuilding, and I saw how much time it took him to prep all his meals and to put them in Tupperware, and he had to go to the gym, and then he had to go swim in the morning and do all this shit. And he looked great, man. He was an in-shape guy. He was a handsome dude. You know, he got lots of girls, you know. So I paid off in that aspect. But I'm just thinking, dude, I mean, it is what it is. It's your passion. It's your hobby. But that's so much time into something else. And I think why it's weird to me is because the way that he was going about it is he wasn't really sharing it with other people. So when I think if I'm putting my time into something and I'm trying to create something or write something, I want to share it with other people. I want them to know about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he wasn't writing books or articles or anything like that. But I guess in a sense, he was getting a lot of ladies, and he was definitely sharing his penis with them. So I don't know. I guess he is sharing.
One thing I've noticed, and I've seen this in a few places, because every once in a while, or throughout my life, I've looked at bodybuilding stuff a few times. Really, I'm not interested in crazy weightlifting. I'm more interested in just general health. But something I've noticed in a lot of them is these guys are, and this is definitely not a general statement. This is just the people that have been on certain message boards and stuff that I looked at. They have a chip on their shoulder big time. Like there's an entire kind of subculture of people. The reason they lift weights is because they're insecure. That's no doubt about it. And not only that, but these guys just work out like complete animals, get huge, and then they hate women, dude, that won't talk to them. And they're like probably in peak physical condition and minimal mental condition. Like, cause they're so just unsure of themselves, and they're angry at women cause they're not just throwing themselves at them. But yeah, it's cause you're like, you know, this bodybuilder who acts like a fucking awkward twerp, and then women won't talk to you. That's what the problem is. Like, I can solve it for you right now. Is quit being such a fucking weirdo and just be normal.
Yeah, there's a key difference between, and I'm not going to say all men and all women, but most men and most women, is if you can be the most handsome guy in great shape with great style and all that, but if you're weirding women out, or if you're coming across as aggressive or hateful, you're probably not going to get laid. And if you do, it's going to be bottom of the barrel. But now if you're a woman and you're super beautiful and in great shape and great style and makeup and all that, there's a bunch of guys who are definitely going to fuck you. So there's a weird thing that goes on there between that. They may not stay with you, or it may just be impossible to have a relationship with you because you're crazy, but they will still fuck you. You know
well, I think, yeah, because I think generally speaking, at least for these poor dudes that I've seen on these sites, is the problem is not that you're not ripped. The problem is that you're weird and you're awkward and that you have no self-esteem. Is quit worrying about that bullshit. Worry about yourself. Like, when I say yourself, your mind. You know, that's what you need to be fixing, not your body. You clearly are thinking about things in a distorted way, and that's what you have to fix.
And there's another weird thing, and the UFC, the most popular MMA organization, has shown us something over the years, is just because you lift weights or you're a big dude, that does not give you fighting ability. You have to train to be a fighter. So just because you're a big dude and you lift weights all the time and you hate women, that doesn't make you a grade A street fighter. And I used to go to bar. I've been to the bar or bars hundreds of times, and I've seen bodybuilder douchebags get their fucking asses beat by fucking normal dudes.
Well, let me ask you this, only because I've never really been that deep into the culture. Is that common? Is that people do that for the purpose of being a good fighter, being a badass? I mean, is that kind of the core reason for doing it?
I'm not sure if it's the core reason, but I think that it's a very popular thought process, is that, oh, I can deadlift 500 pounds. I can bench press 350. I'll fucking fuck everybody up in this room.
So it's just like being kind of an artificial alpha male, I guess is what it is. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is,
you think there's a recipe to being an alpha male rather than...
Yeah. You think if you're walking around fucking spreading your lats and fucking bobbing your head and wearing an Ed Hardy t-shirt, that somehow you've become the alpha male of the room. But the truth is that fighting, it's great to be physically fit and all that, but fighting is so much harder than lifting weights. There's so much more to it, so much more movement and athleticism and being cerebral and being fast and just knowing what to do. You can't just lift weights and think you're going to go around and kick people's ass. It's probably not going to hurt you if you've never trained at all, but you can't just think you're a fucking badass because you lift weights, because somebody is going to fuck you up.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that's interesting to me, because, I mean, it makes total sense. I never really thought of it as that being kind of a general reason. I mean, I know there's that subculture of people, and I imagine that's probably what it is, right? They're just literally trying to be kind of the alpha male. They're trying to, in all aspects, right, be the strongest, most powerful, kick everybody's ass in a room type of deal.
I could actually give a personal example of this because back in, I think it was 2002. It may have been 2003. That was my first stint with mixed martial arts, like training. And I went and trained with Eve Edwards. He was a UFC fighter. You remember Eve, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I went in there, and I didn't go in there with a douchey attitude at all. But I was into the bodybuilding stuff. I probably weighed about 200 pounds, and I was pretty strong and in good shape. But and he was a lot smaller than me, and I trained with him a bunch of times for about 2 months. And just in my mind, I thought, okay, this guy is definitely going to be able to outstrike me. But when we start wrestling, I'll be able to at least do something. But he's, I'm 50 pounds heavier and much stronger, but he's fighting is his life. I couldn't do anything to him. I couldn't take him down. I couldn't fucking hit him whenever we were sparring. I could do nothing to him.
What's that move? Okay, when, I can't think of the name of it. So what's when you shoot? Is that what it is when you go to take somebody down?
Yeah.
I can remember sitting in that gym watching that dude, and when he went to shoot, I was like, that may be the fastest reflexed human I've ever seen when he went in for that.
Yeah, that's right. You and I, and maybe somebody else was with us, and we went there, and it was like an open sparring day. He was prepping for a fight, I think.
Yeah, it was cool because I'd never been to any place like that, and it was just like the door was open. You could just walk in, and there was these dudes in there like practicing sparring on the mats. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fucking badass. I remember, I think it was a couple of days before that. Because we had seen him in the UFC, and I think that was, I forgot his opponent, but he hit his opponent, and his opponent kind of turned and ran to try to reset, and Eve hit him in the head with that fucking flying head kick. You remember that?
I do remember the fight vaguely. I'd have to watch it again.
I think that was the one. And then I found, and it said he was from Houston. I was like, what? This dude lives in Houston? And I started looking around and shit, and it just so happens one of my friends worked in the nutrition store across the street. He's like, yeah, dude, I know that dude. I talk to him. He comes in here sometimes. I was like, what? And it was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 miles from home, maybe at most. And so, I decided to call him. I was like, fuck it. Cause I always loved mixed martial arts. But back then there was nowhere to train. It was very rare that you would have to go to one of the MMA meccas if you wanted to train.
Yeah. It was weird. I remember thinking that at the time is cause this dude's gym was like in a strip mall. It was one of those that's kind of hidden from view, not like a great location. And yeah, but you go around the corner and it's like, wow, there's an MMA gym right here with a dude that's fought in the UFC.
Yeah, and it was 100% legit too, because they never turned on the air conditioning for one thing. And but back what I was gonna say is I called him up. I called the gym. I didn't expect him to pick it up. I thought they would have a secretary or something like that, because at that point I had never actually been there. And he picked it up, and it was him. And I was like, holy shit. It was like I was talking to fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger or something. I was like a giddy little girl, and I was probably over complimenting him and shit. And I was like, dude, can I come train up there? He was like, yeah, man. And he told me what I had to do. It was $60 a month to train there as much as I wanted. I was like, what? And so, I talked to him, and then I showed up. I think we went and watched them spar first. It was on a weekend. And then I think I started either the next day no, maybe he had a fight first. I started the next week. It was so long ago, I can't remember. But I just remember going there and fucking going in for the first time, and I was so jittery and my nerves were going off and shit. But it was just like, holy shit, I'm around real fucking fighters. There was a boxer in there. I believe his name is Lewis Wood, and he's a fucking super badass fighter. And Rocky Long, Rocky's like a Texas legend. He still lives not too far from us. I'm not gonna say where he lives, but. And there was a few other guys in there, just legitimate tough guys who are from the early era of MMA. And to be able for them to just accept me and let me come in there and train, I was so fucking happy. But going back to that bodybuilding thing for a second, so I was super into that. And the first day I was there, this is not just the first day, but many times, just doing the warm up before we did anything else, I was completely gassed out, dude. My body was filled with lactic acid. And these guys are barely fucking breathing hard, barely sweating. And that's when it really hit me. It's if you want to be a tough guy, don't try to be a bodybuilder. If you want to be a tough guy, go be a fucking fighter. Go train for real for hours on end when it's fucking 90 degrees in the gym and you're just sweating fucking balls. If you want to be tough, that's how you do it.
Yeah, that was cool stuff. Didn't you go to maybe it was with those guys too, to some kind of boxing gym? They were into because they were studying the different disciplines kind of individually, right? And then you end up going to a boxing specific gym. I remember you coming back and being like, that place was the shit. It was like a Vander Holyfield type of shit. Dude.
Yeah, it was a Vander Holyfield's gym, or one of his main training gyms. And they told me that on the way there. See, this is so crazy that I have this memory, because to me, like, he's such a fucking awesome motherfucker, dude. He was so fucking cool. And for me to just be sitting in the back seat, crammed back there, I was the only not legitimate tough guy. And I have all these hardened veterans that have fucking fought in Japan and the UFC and like all these major organizations, and I'm just some cunt just sitting there. But the funny thing is the whole way to Houston, we were going to that gym, is they're sitting there like reading like Pokemon and comic books and shit. And I'm like, every single dude in this car could beat my ass in 10 seconds. And they're fucking reading like Pokemon and shit. I was like, this is fucking great. And so, we went down to Houston, and it was Evander Holyfield's gym. And as soon as you walk in there, like the smell, like the fucking like old ass sweat and shit, you're like, oh shit, this is legit. But the greatest fucking, this is one of the greatest moments ever, is we walk in, and there's windows up top, like towards the ceiling, and there's sunlight coming through. So there's like these sun shafts, and they're coming down on some of the punching bags, and the bags are just slowly swaying. And that song from DMX was playing. It's Anderson Silva's walkout song, like, ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Yeah. I was like, oh shit. I had like butterflies in my stomach. It was like a fucking movie, I swear to God.
Just
man.
The whole vibe, huh?
Yeah. And that was the first day that I sparred with like hitting in the face and shit with MMA gloves. It wasn't full blown, obviously. You know, it was like 30% working on speed and timing and shit like that. But that whole fucking day was awesome, man. It was just awesome, dude. And to like be able to share that small moment with those guys, I won't fucking forget it, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember the story because I remember how just amped you were. You were like, dude, went to this boxing gym. I remember you telling the story just about the just kind of ambience of it, the environment, and the music and everything. Just sounds like a really cool experience for that type of thing.
Yeah, I was only maybe 19 at the time, so it was that was like my only moment where I've ever hung out with superstars to me, So it was fucking cool, man. The only thing I regret about that is I didn't keep going because I didn't know better. Because one thing, I was broke as fuck, but after a couple of months, I was like working at Home Depot and trying to go to community college and do this shit. And I don't know, I just didn't have the juice left for it. But my biggest regret in life is not staying there.
Well, you did have a second stint, though. Several years later, went back and started training MMA again. And who were you training with?
Matt Mikowski.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a really good. I don't remember his record exactly. I haven't talked to him since 2009, I think. But he was a really good amateur kickboxer, and he had some good MMA fights too. And he was a cool dude. But that experience was hard too because I couldn't because of my work schedule. I came in at 3 p.m. and I left at midnight. So the only time I could train was in the morning, and they didn't have any classes. And so I had to pay for personal lessons, which is very expensive. And also, once you train with the same person for months and months and months, I trained with him for 5 or 6 months. You need to switch it up. You know what I'm saying? Because you start to kind of learn their patterns and what they're going to do. I mean, he could still obviously fuck me up, but it was just like I needed to be able to train with a class with a whole bunch of different people. But that was the shit, man. And that was my one and only MMA fight that I had after that. That was the culmination of it all. And that was a fucking great experience, man. Terrifying, but fun.
So let me ask you this, just because I'm in a position right now where I need to start getting my health back in check, because I used to run a lot, and I was eating vegan for a while, and I was doing really good. Actually, never felt better in my life, and over time I've let that slide, and now I'm kind of a slug, and I'm ready to go ahead and fix that shit. So when you were training MMA, I mean, I remember you were in fantastic shape. What kind of workouts were you doing aside from the MMA?
Well, a lot of it was in the gym, and obviously you do like wrestling and sparring and rolling and all that kind of shit. But a lot of sprints and burpees and agility drills and shit like that. But I would still try to exercise at home too. I didn't want to burn myself out. I was still learning, like getting away from bodybuilding and doing what's functional for fighting. And I would just do high rep shit, like full body shit. Like clean a weight off the floor and then put it over your head for like 20 reps with a relatively light weight. But the biggest difference there is I wasn't going to failure anymore. I wasn't like destroying my muscles because they needed to be recuperated for the next go around, because I'd be training again in 2 days at most. So yeah, I don't know how to describe it really. I would say kind of CrossFit type of shit, really. Okay, yeah, just kind of cross training and high rep, not heavy weight stuff, and then cardio. Yeah, tons of cardio, fucking. But that's the thing is you can do all the cardio in the world, But if you can't control your nerves when you're sparring or when you're fighting, you're still going to gas out. You could fucking run marathons fucking all year long, but if you can't control those emotions and that adrenaline, you're going to get tired really fucking fast.
Yeah, well, when you're nervous and you do things like hyperventilate and things like that, I mean, that has nothing to do with what you're physically doing. That's 100% mental. It's really just your breathing alone. It's amazing how fast that can sap you if it's not being done correctly. Like if you're a really nervous situation, like I know there's been situations where I've been so nervous, man. And then after that, even I did nothing physical, but after that, I'm just like completely worn out, like ready to take a nap. It just takes it out of you. It seems like, yeah, that's at least half the game, at least, is getting your mind solid.
Yeah. And I never learned to do that. I remember before my fight, for one thing, I didn't sleep, which is very common. I didn't sleep at all for like 30 something hours. And then, I went in there, and I had to warm up before the fight. And it's a strange atmosphere because you're in a gym. It's a smoker thing. It's not a big amateur event or pro event. It's a gym versus gym kind of thing. And there's, I don't know, like 200, 250 people in there. It's packed. Not a lot of room to walk. And it's that where you can kind of smell everybody's breath and their sweat and shit. And that in itself, because I'm an introvert and I like my personal space, made me kind of nervous. And so I went off into the corner by myself and started like doing jumping jacks and fucking that kind of thing, warming up. And then Matt came over and we did some pad work and just a couple of submission drills and shit like that. But by the time they called my name, I think I was the second or third fight, I was already gassed out. And then I walked in there, but I didn't feel nervous at all because we had trained so hard. And I was like, I'm going to fuck this dude up. That's what I thought in my mind. And but I was already gassed out by the time the fight even started. And I remember thinking, I think it was in the second round, we were beating the shit out of each other, pretty good. But I remember thinking for some reason about Christmas time or like all these like peaceful memories that have everything to not do with fighting were running through my head. I was like, why am I doing this? I'm so fucking tired. This dude just punched me in the fucking head. I can't fucking breathe. Why am I doing this to myself? But I still had that thing in me, like, I can't quit. I have to win this. I have to do my best and all that shit. I have to prove to myself that I'm good enough to do this. And so I made it all the way to the end. I lost the split decision. I did pretty good. He obviously did a little bit better than me. But that was a fucking awesome experience. I don't regret it. And it was fun as shit, man.
Well, that's interesting. It sounds like the crazy thoughts go in your head. I mean, of course you were tired, maybe a little delirious, but maybe it's almost like your brain was like trying to take you somewhere else to like calm you down a little bit. Like it was too worn out. And it was like, man, we need to think about different things.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was, man. But I just had a flash memory. Just one more thing on this topic is so I went back to work like 2 or 3 days later. And everybody knew I had the fight because they knew I was training. They thought it was cool, so they'd ask me about it. I never wanted to talk about it because I think it can come across as douchey. If you ask me about it, I'll tell you a little bit, but I'm not going to talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm never going to bring it up because I just think it comes across wrong. And so they were asking me about it. I told them what happened, and it was recorded on video. So I showed them the video, and I work with this one guy, and he starts talking shit. This guy is like 130 pounds soaking wet, 5'7". He's a pussy, And he starts talking shit about my wrestling technique and about how I got so tired. Dude's never been to fucking fight in his life. And I just wanted to slap the fuck out of him. But I was like, you know what, dude? Just fuck you, man. You don't know. You think you know, but you have no fucking clue. Walking in there's like 250 people watching you. Your coach is screaming at you. His coach is screaming at him and telling him to fuck you up and all this shit. You haven't slept forever. And you know what I'm saying? It's like people who haven't done it in that atmosphere. It's not the same as a street fight. It's not the same as a pure wrestling match. It's just so different. And if you haven't done it, you can't talk shit.
That's a really strange thing to do is to, someone who's just had an MMA fight. And especially if it's not even a senior into to just come out and be like, start critiquing your form and shit. Like what is that?
Yeah, I think that's why it pissed me off so bad because as I said, I never brought it up. I never talked about it because I didn't want to be that guy. I was just a guy who loved it, and if you asked me about it, I would tell you a little bit. But I would never ever claim that I was a tough guy or a badass. I would never say anything like that. And for him to do that, it really angered me because I spent so much time prepping for that and fucking I don't know. It was just a douchey thing. And from that moment on, I just lost respect for him. Like I never looked at him the same. But let's move on though, because we've been talking about MMA a lot lately, and sometimes we want to talk about things in the news. So how about that, his name is Colin Kaepernick? Is that how you say it?
Kaepernick, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, everybody probably knows what we're talking about. The football player, I think plays for the 49ers. He's like the third string quarterback or something. I don't know, whatever those fucking terms are. But so he's recently, I think it was Friday or maybe Thursday, he sat down during the national anthem as a form of protest to shed light on police brutality and racism in America. And my thoughts on this is I can see irritation from people just because simply it seems like an attention whore move. But anytime a celebrity has a strong opinion about something, or they're trying to make a statement, people get irritated. It's like, fuck you, you're rich, you fucking cocksucker. I don't care what you have to say, you spoiled brat. Like, fuck your opinion. That's what people say. But from my perspective, I get it. I get what he's doing. And, but what I'm seeing on the news a lot is, Republican type of news is women, especially, like Tommy Lahern. Do you know who that is?
No clue.
Well, I think she's 24 years old. It's this, little blonde girl. And, she's like the 24-year-old blonde Bill O'Reilly, basically. And she's gained a lot of popularity in the last year or so, or maybe even less than that. But, she's going off on him. All these other ladies on the news are going off of him. I'm thinking to myself, you fucking cunts aren't even veterans. So if you're going to go off on this rant about how he disrespected our veterans and what they did for this country and all this, is like, you don't need to speak for us. I'm a veteran and I understand what he's doing. And even though it gave me kind of douche chills because I see it more as an attention whore move than him actually believing it. I could be totally wrong about that, but regardless of that, I don't care. If he genuinely thinks that there's an issue and that that's going to bring light to it and help to solve the problem, then go for it. I don't fucking care at all.
So my immediate thought on this, and granted, I haven't been following it that closely, so I'm not sure. I've heard that he said, it's police brutality and things he's protesting, but my immediate thought on it is that the people that are complaining the most, the way they're doing it is odd because they're fundamentally misunderstanding freedom. Because when you say that people fight for your freedom, they're not fighting for your freedom to wave your flag and sing your national anthem and be a nationalist. They're fighting for your freedom to not do those things when something happens that you don't agree with. Now, whether or not you agree with Colin and his assessment of what's going on is irrelevant. He is actually practicing the freedom that your military gives you, that he's not disrespecting the troops by being unhappy with the way that something is going in America. He is exercising his freedom by protesting these things in a way that's visible.
Yeah, and again, I think it's totally fine. I don't feel in any way that he's disrespecting veterans or people who died for the country. He's just making a move, and maybe he is a legitimate guy. He's an activist of sorts. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I've also heard that there's issues where he could possibly be cut soon. And I don't remember the guy's name. There's so many Jerrys and Johnsons. Maybe his name's Jerry Johnson. He's a coach on the team. And he's known for cutting players who have great athletic ability but are lazy. This is what I read. And that Colin fits into that category is that he has all the tools, but he doesn't necessarily have the cerebral game because he's either lazy or he doesn't have that type of intelligence to become a great quarterback. And so by him, so the Jerry Johnson guy, whoever he is, the coach or whatever the fuck, has been accused of racism in the past for his decision to cut great players that don't have the cerebral game. And so there's a theory going around that he's rustling jimmies basically and getting in the spotlight so that they won't cut him to end his contract so that he can continue to make money, because if they did cut him at this point, it could potentially look racist. So I don't know. Could be true. Maybe it's not true. But at the end of the day, I don't fucking care, man. If that guy wants to do that, great for him.
To me, this is just another thing that's been blown way out of proportion. Is what he's doing. I get some people don't agree with it, and I understand why. But what he's doing is not insane. What he's doing is not bad for the country. These are the kind of discussions and protests that need to happen. I don't care if you agree with it or not, but don't say by sitting right there, given his reason, he's not disrespecting the country. Now, I don't know enough about this, and he's going to come back and make me look like a fucking dipshit tomorrow. I can feel it, like he's going to say something really stupid. But I'm just talking fundamentally. When you're practicing your freedom, free speech isn't to protect things that nobody cares about. It's to protect people that say things that we don't necessarily agree with, or things that are hard to hear. That is the purpose of free speech. That's the purpose of freedom. And I think that we'll do well as a country when we start to understand what that actually means. Because, when you get the hardline, right-wing people, it's such like a strange dynamic, because they're the ones that come out and talk about freedom and support the troops and all this shit, but they're often the ones that are the most vehemently opposed to actual freedom, which is so bizarre. Like, it's almost like a caricature of what rational thought is, because they're the ones that they preach it and preach it and preach it, but it's almost like the Princess Bride things, where it's like, I don't think that word means what you think it means. You know what I mean? Because you don't understand it. Like, you don't have to agree with somebody, but don't pretend like they're being anti-patriotic or that they're disrespecting troops. Don't put that into it, because that's not what's happening. I'm rambling about this. This is just a topic that pisses me off over and over and over, because real freedom is what we lose when people bitch about people like Colin Kaepernick. Like, I don't care what he does. If he's being a douche, I don't give a shit. The point is, if we stop him from being able to do that, we are removing freedom.
And I completely agree with you. And I think this carries over as well to flag burning. I think burning the flag is stupid. Mm-hmm. It's not something I would ever do. But when I see someone doing it, especially an African-American, a black person, I don't even know if you're allowed to say African-American anymore, but when you see a black person doing it and their genuine purpose is to bring light to racism, because what they're saying is they may think that America is great in general, but it's not great for them, because they've been oppressed for so long and they've had all these problems with racism, people calling them, bad names and all this. And so I get what they're doing, but I know people, and I say this with air quotation marks as I'm looking at you now, is I know people who are my friends, in quotations, I guess, that get so fucking angry about this. And you're disrespecting all the troops that ever died and all this shit. And that's not what they're doing. You have to look at the context of what is happening. I've never heard them mention anything about troops, ever, any military branch. They're trying to bring light to something that matters to them. Again, I would never burn a flag. I don't necessarily condone it. But if that's their form of protest, it's an extreme measure in many people's eyes. It's not mine. I don't even fucking care. But I get it. I get what they're doing, and I get the message. But there's so many people who just don't. They immediately retreat back to that hardcore Republican right-wing just level of stupid, to where you can't even communicate with them. They don't want to look outside the box. They don't want to look at context. They want a reason to hate and to shit on people and to go Team Republican. They need their team to win.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that too. But you have to be okay with being criticized for what you do. And that's okay. So that's the price of free speech too. So by Colin doing this, I fully support his right to sit down and to protest 100%. But I also support the right of people to talk shit to him, because that's what dialogue is. That's what communication is. And that's something that we severely lack in this country right now, is honest dialogue. So anytime that can happen, I'm all in. But I guess where I'm getting with this, and my aim is not to piss off right-wing people, because I feel like, generally speaking, their heart's in a good spot, right? They love the country, presumably, and all this. But I think it's just, sometimes you have to take a step back, and you got to remember, what is freedom? And freedom is not your freedom to dress up in flag clothes and be the most nationalist person on earth. Think about what you're saying there. That's saying I'm free to be exactly what the government is. No, freedom is to not be that. Freedom is to be able to talk about it. Freedom is, the ability to criticize it when it doesn't make sense. Freedom is the ability to make changes, to open eyes. So you got to remember, this country's here because of people protesting. That's the reason America exists. So just think about that in general. So by all means, don't disagree or don't agree with them. I'm 100%, on board with that, but don't come out and say that the dude's just anti-American on this, because that's horse shit. If his heart's really where he says it is, it's because he honestly believes something's not right, and he's trying to get the word out about it.
And something that's strange about that too is that people keep trying to bring up that he was adopted by white people, and they raised him in such a way to help give him a great football career, and so that he can have a great life in America, so he doesn't have a right to bitch about it. And that's so stupid to me, because look, if the guy is obviously, I don't know his nationality, he looks like maybe he's half black and some form of Middle Eastern, I'm not really sure, but that's what it looks like to me. So it's not out of the realm of possibility at all that he's had many racial slurs thrown at him.
You know what's weird about that is people are trying to break him down on something that has nothing to do with what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like they're saying, oh, well, he's not really black. I mean, that's what I take out of what you just said. You know, what a bullshit argument. Like if the guy believes something and he wants to protest it, I don't care what you think it is. That's freedom. Just remember that at the end of the day, that is what freedom is.
It is. And, I don't know what's wrong with this fucking country. And I at times I just get tired of trying to figure it out. But I think it comes down to the simplest thing, is people are terrified and they have to cling to a team. It's a simple concept that they have to have a team to be on and to root for, and they have to constantly be fighting someone else to give meaning to their life, to try to get an edge in the war. And it's just got to stop, man. I'm getting to the point now where when people behave like that, I don't want to be their friend anymore. It fucking irritates me. I don't understand that.
I can tell you this. I'm sick of listening to it. I'm sick of seeing it. You know, like we may have talked about this before, but like I can barely read like my Facebook feed anymore, and it's just to the point where it's all shit like this all the time, and people talking shit and not even doing it directly. It's always passively. You know what I mean? Like people don't. It's because there's no face-to-face time. I have to believe that's what it is at this point, is because people don't act like that when they're face-to-face. People are now given this platform, this artificial platform where they're able to get their voice out farther than it should go. And now that that's happened, it's broken us down into this real, it's just, I think it's an unnatural dynamic. Yeah, because you have, you know, like our political system, you have these two huge teams that are not so slowly pushing themselves into the farthest fringes of that. And then, you know, now it's gotten so far that people can't even talk anymore. Not without labeling you, you're a fucking left wing, you're a Republican, you're right, you know, you're an idiot, red state idiot, or, you know, if you can't talk to people anymore, then your system is fucked. Your ideology is fucked. You need to fix that, because at the end of the day, people is what we are. That's what's here, is us. We need to be looking out for each other. We need to be figuring out better ways to communicate and to keep our society together and understand each other. But just separating each other follow that to the end. Where does that go? I'll tell you where it goes. It goes to a fucking civil war over people that would probably get along if they didn't have these bullshit ideas and the need to fit into a team so much that they even espouse ideas that they don't even necessarily believe. I have to believe that sometimes too. This is one of those things where they're like, well, I'm defending my side, even if I don't necessarily believe everything they say, because that has to be true. Because if it's not, sometimes you're a fucking moron.
And I think that the only way that this is going to end peacefully is if we get so advanced in technology and information sharing that we all become grays, like aliens, basically. You know what I'm saying? Where the entire objective of life is learning and discovery. And once we get to that point, there will obviously be no more religion. There will be no need for teams because everyone's on the same team because we share all the same facts.
Well, I don't know where. I don't know. I think the path is eventual civil war. I think that's harder now because the country's so developed, and to destabilize it would take a lot. But that's where those ideas go. That's, when you become so energetic about your side and you start thinking about some of the positions, think about how much it really matters at the end of the day. And then you think about how much hatred. Now think about that for a minute. Like if you have legitimate hatred for another human you've never met based off of a position that may or may not be all that important. I mean, you got to think about what that's doing to your psyche. What that's done to you mentally you hate a person that you've literally never met. You probably don't fully understand what they say because our news cycles are based off of just whatever punchline they can grab that day. And it's just, I don't know, it's insincere. So yeah, I don't know how you put that back together without, some kind of, like sci-fi world where everybody starts to actually read everything and understand everything, because you're always going to have those disagreements, and I don't know where you go from there.
So how crazy is it though that these extremist type of people, they can meet someone one time or even just read something they wrote online, and because they disagree with it, they'll dismiss that person's soul, basically. They'll dismiss any knowledge that person may have simply based on the fact that they disagreed with them on a political topic. How fucking crazy is that?
So I saw a thing yesterday, and this was on Facebook, and I'm not going to call the person out, but they put up a video, and the text they put for the post said something like, well, now I understand Trump supporters. And what this video was, it was some kind of experiment somebody was doing where it was a whole group of people sitting in like a waiting room, and there was a buzzer that was sounded like, okay. So I guess one lady that was in there like wasn't in on the gig, right? She was the, the person that was in there for the experiment. So every time this thing would buzz, all the people in the room would just stand up out of their chairs and stand there for a minute. And she was just like looking around, staying seated, and then they would sit back down. And then like 30 seconds later, this thing would buzz again or whatever, and everybody would stand up. And this just kept happening. But eventually she started standing up and had no idea why. So at any rate, the point of that post was that people who support Trump are obviously idiots and they're just following the crowd. But I think you're saying the same thing on the other side. Like this other person, I'm going to call them out a little bit without being my name, I've literally seen them say, well, I'm really happy to see that we might have a woman president. You know what I mean? It's like you're literally doing the same fucking thing. You're supporting somebody for a reason that has nothing to do with anything, or not a reason that you should select someone for president. That's for damn sure. So yeah, but that's the level of dialogue we're dealing with.
It's fucking stupid too, because I mean, there's assholes that support dumb assholes that support anybody who runs for president. You're going to have intelligent people. You're going to have dumbasses. You're going to have people who are willing to compromise, people in the middle. I can't stand those fucking generic generalizing videos like that. Cause I think I saw a small clip of the video you're talking about, today or last night. And you can't just put people in a category like that and fucking shit all over them.
Well, so basically the person that put this up by doing that was passive aggressively shitting on anyone who may support Donald Trump. And these are people that are, if they're on your Facebook page, are presumably your friends or your family members, or you know what I mean? So think about what you're doing real quick. Do you care more about that horse shit than you do your family and friends?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people that do care about that more because they feel that it gives them an identity.
So I used to be a fairly involved with the Republican Party, I guess you would say, but that's what happened to me though, is I found myself I found thought problems. I found failures in logic. Is supporting platforms that I didn't necessarily agree with. I found myself like kind of starting to do that, kind of the team mentality, but I caught it, and then I was like, well, yeah, I'm done with that shit. It's like, yeah, I definitely agree with some things you say. I definitely agree with that. That's the thing, is think about it rationally. What do I actually agree with? It doesn't matter what party the person says they're in. Like, what tenets do I actually agree with? Do I agree with some of your policies and some of somebody else's policies? That's probably much closer to reality than you agreeing with everything that. So here's another thing. And this is somebody else we know, is also deeply involved in the Republican Party. And years and years and years ago, I got on her email mailing list. And I've never been taken off of it. So I still get the emails, everyone. And this is somebody who, claims, deep Christianity and uses that in most of their emails, talks about it a lot, and is and basically the last email I sent was almost a desperate support and begging for votes, pulling people over to Donald Trump, who obviously, in terms of being like a pure Christian or something, I would say you can say like by his behavior that's not his kind of method of operation. So it's just weird to see that, like, how deeply ingrained that is. I'm saying, I want to support this party so much that I will give up my core principles to do that.
And that in itself is going against Christianity. When Judgment Day comes, if you're a Christian and you're still alive, or not Judgment Day, excuse me, I think it's Armageddon, whatever the fuck. I haven't read that shit in so long. But whenever it's close for Jesus to come down and take the rest of the survivors, and the Christians on earth are supposed to be resisting the shitty people on earth who are trying to kill him, who are going to ask you to deny Jesus Christ. You're supposed to say, no, Jesus Christ is my Lord, as they cut your head off. Well, if you're sending out these emails like this, obviously you're not going to pass that test in the future if you're willing to just give up so easily for some stupid political fucking bullshit. I mean, you're fake. Like, whatever you're talking about is bullshit.
Yeah, it's so strange, man. I can't even explain it anymore. Just, and I know I'm talking. I feel like I'm talking in circles about this, but the way that this is panned out over time has gotten into such a strange position where the people who are presumably the most Christian are also the most war hungry. The people that are supposedly the most socially liberal are also, just really shady towards people, and it's a comic book, man. It's all bullshit. And fortunately, I think for a lot of people, the curtain's coming down. People are starting to notice. And I don't know what that means, though. I think we're still kind of early in that. I mean, because, when you get to a point where Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are your presidential candidates, you have to be close to the end of something, whatever that is, I mean, because that's got to be the sign. That's the writing on the wall.
Yeah, well, this is really the first time that we've had not absolute, but nearly absolute transparency because of WikiLeaks and all that shit.
Yeah.
As it's all coming out now. But the crazy thing is people are eating it up. They love it. And they're still supporting their candidates. Like, how can you possibly get behind Hillary at this point? She's a fucking criminal. Just a psychotic, crazy, murderous cunt.
What does it take at this point? I mean, what would it take for either one of them? I mean, what information would have to come out that would make people actually break support? And maybe they are to some extent, because I mean, just because 50% of people polled one can or other, how many people that they polled are actually voting? I guess there's a lot of questions around that too. I mean, I feel like people are breaking off, because I've already seen, and it's kind of limited numbers, but I've seen some people kind of dropping their party and move into one or the other, or move into Libertarian Party or Green Party. Because I mean, just this cycle, you're hearing so much more about the Libertarian Party and the Green Party, just because everybody's like, well, this is crazy. Why not? Kind of give this a chance. I'm really hoping maybe we'll end up seeing one of them or both of them in the debates. That would be fantastic, because I think even if you don't agree with them, I think that those people are so much more reasonable that it would cast this doubt immediately on the two major candidates. You'd be like, wow, these people really are full of shit. You know what I mean? Because if you had a couple, well, I think that, but people do like the soap opera, so maybe they would just kind of egg it on. Because I know so many people are waiting for the Trump-Hillary debates to see what the hell Trump will say, but I don't know.
Well, that should be entertaining to watch that. I mean, I'm obviously going to watch it because it's going to be hilarious. Trump's probably going to talk mad shit, and it's going to be great. Some good one-liners in there. But, to answer the question, where is this all going?
I know it's almost kind of depressing to think about. I felt myself getting amped up there, but now it kind of takes me down when I logically follow it to the end, because I don't see it yet. I don't know how you fix that. And it just seems like to me, just based off what I see in my own life and social media and things like that, is that the dialogue isn't getting any better. So I don't know what it takes before you can hit that uptick on that.
Yeah, well, until people, or whenever something negative comes out about Trump or Hillary, their supporters will, that's fucking bullshit. Even though there's solid proof for it, who cares? I've done that. There's always that thing there. And until people stop doing that, that's the thing, is I don't know if that's ever going to stop. It could be thousands of years. We need to evolve so much.
Well, people enjoy the conflict, and that's probably the core issue, is people like the conflict. They like the drama. I mean, that's why we have huge audiences for dipshit shows with Kardashians on it. I mean, it's for that same reason, is that people like drama and they like simple things to stimulate their brains, I guess.
And it makes me wonder because I don't think I'm an intelligent person. I think I'm probably about average, but I'm smart enough to know that the Kardashians sucks. So they have millions and millions and millions of people who love to watch them. And it makes me wonder, is it a form of lesser intelligence, or do I just not get it? I don't know.
I don't know. I most certainly don't. I mean, I can think of a zillion other better ways to spend my time. Like sitting there in the quiet, I think would be more beneficial to me than watching that shit. But I don't know.
Much more enjoyable. There's no doubt about that. Watching those retards fucking just babble on and on.
It's one of the few shows where I can get like physically angry just hearing it.
I know exactly what you mean. Those stupid voices and conversations and fake conflicts and just.
Well, I gotta say, even with all that, I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that people are gonna start to see what's kind of going on, man. They're gonna see the man behind the curtain on all this and kind of figure out that it's all bullshit and that it's time to, maybe it's time to rethink some things, Just because something's always been a certain way doesn't mean that's the way it always should be, so.
I couldn't agree more. And before we shut this down, I know we're a little bit over our normal time, which is fine. But to rewind real quick to the 2016 Video Music Awards that I was talking about earlier. Well, Kim Kardashian and Kanye West are married, obviously. They were in the front row. And every time Kim Kardashian was on screen, she had a selfie face on.
Hey, that reminds me. So I have heard, I don't know if this is true, that she won't smile because she's afraid that smiling will give her wrinkles.
That doesn't surprise me at all because I didn't see her smile once. It was the people who listen to this, they can't see my face right now on camera, but it was the selfie look. It was I'm sexy and I'm innocent, but I'm playful. Like it was like that stupid fucking look that you've seen 1,000 times and they're trying to say something, but she was holding her facial muscles. I guess it's kind of impressive for hours in the same thing. And she did speak a few times. They gave her the microphone and, her face had to change a little bit. But other than that, it was the same tilted head kind of up or down a little bit. Her eyes were a certain way fixated. And it's like that, I'm a caring, sexy, deep person. It was so fucking disgusting. It was so obvious what she was doing. I couldn't fucking handle it. I was kind of forced to watch it in a way, but I just couldn't take it. How can you be that fucking fake, man? But I guess if your whole life is in the news and that's all you are, you have no sense of self anymore, and your self-worth comes from people telling you that your Instagram pictures are hot, I guess. Maybe that's what that was. Or maybe she's just fucking crazy. I don't know. But it was unbearable to watch it. I'm not happy that I watched it, but I did. And I don't know what my point is, but fuck that bitch.
Yeah, man. So I think we should call this one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm getting down on life right now.
Yeah. Fuck you, Kim Kardashian.
That's right. So, all right, guys. Well, if you want to leave us a voicemail, give us a call at 804-557-4691. That's 804-JJ-SHOW-1. You can hit us up at jakeandjohnshow.com. We're on Twitter at Jake and John Show, Facebook at Jake and John Show, and that's about it. You got anything else, brother?
Nope. I think I'm tapped out. Peace out, bros.
Take it easy.